If you're watching this video, the likelihood is that you support a football club in the Premier League, and every single Premier League fan knows that at their club they have these players that they just wish they could get rid of. So for this video, we're going through each Premier League club and what player they should consider binning off in January. First up, Bournemouth. And for me, I've gone for Jack Stacey, and this is because he's just not good enough really, and I think with Fredericks there, all they've got to do is then bring in a cheap backup option who's better than Stacey, and they'll just have a more solid squad all round by doing that. Next up is Arsenal, and for me it is going to be Mohamed Elneny, and this is just it was either him or Sambi Lokonga, because both of them I just don't think look quite as good enough, but Lokonga's a younger player, so he could still be shaped into a better player for the future, whereas Elneny, he's getting on a bit, he's probably not, he's just not good enough. He's only getting like 5 minutes at the end of the game type sub appearances, so not good enough. Next up is Aston Villa, and for me it's a man they only bought in summer, Leander Dendoncker, because the Belgium, he joined from Wolves and he barely plays, he only makes sub appearances, he just doesn't get in the team, and to me it screamed of a panic buy, and they might as well sell him to raise funds for players for Emery to buy in this window himself. Next up then is Brentford, and I have gone for Shandon Baptiste, and a player I think could do a very good job for like a higher end championship club, but he's not Premier League quality, he doesn't get many minutes. Just sell him and raise some funds where you're getting a player who you're not really getting much use out of. Next up then is of course Brighton, and I've gone for Dennis Undav. For some reason, he was brought in to score goals and it just hasn't worked out for him. Welbeck, despite not being really a goal scorer of a striker, is still the first pick option, whereas Undav, despite it's like sort of being this target man who can bag goals in the box, he just isn't fitting De Serbi or Potter's system, and that means he can't play, can't prove himself, and they might as well sell him and look for a backup striker for Welbeck who actually suits their system. Next up then is Chelsea, and this was either Hakim Ziyech or Christian Pulisic, but Pulisic seems to be getting more minutes, seems to fit Potter's ideal play style a bit more, whereas Ziyech does not. He's not going to get many minutes, if any, so after a brilliant World Cup, Chelsea might as well try and get a slightly higher fee for him than they would have, and just get a decent deal for a player they're not going to use at all. Next up then is Crystal Palace, and for this transfer, it would require them bringing players in. So I've said Nathaniel Klein, but they'd need to sign a right back. So the only other player they've got there is, I think, Nathan Ferguson, and he's not quite good enough yet, still quite a young player. But if they could sign another right back and sort of get rid of an aging Klein who's looking a bit stale, not quite the quality Crystal Palace want, then I do think that would be a good bit of business by Palace to recoup some money that they've paid for him in wages, and I think he was on a free, but in wages they could recoup some of that by selling him. Next up then is Everton, and a man who, I kid you not, was once listed or thought of as the Everton version of Steven Gerrard, and that is Tom Davies. I don't know how they got him so wrong. I guess he broke through, midfielder, doing alright, but his career just really hasn't gone that way at all. I mean, he's just not good enough. I would say he's bang average, but he's not even that. He's championship quality, really, just mid-table championship. Not good enough for Everton, especially for a position they're in where they desperately need to improve. He's not even getting that many minutes in the team, so I do think they have way better midfielders like Onana. So just bin him off, get some money for him, try and bring in someone of a bit more quality. Next up then is Fulham, and similar situation. I've gone for Nathaniel Chalobah. Like 10 years ago when he broke through with Chelsea, people thought he'd be a quality player in the future, but after a couple loans, being at Watford, doing alright, then last season he barely played for them. I don't know if he was injured or anything, but he didn't play at all, and this season he's only made the odd few appearances for Fulham. He's clearly not needed, so just get rid of him really. He's not even providing that much squad depth, he's barely used. Next up is Leeds, and I've gone for quite a young player here, a right back, Cody Drameh, and this is because I think that although Leeds have other players you maybe could put in there, like Adam Forshaw, I feel like Drameh for himself, he should get a move away because he's a decent young fullback. He could definitely be starting for a championship side, and he definitely needs football to progress his career. He's 21 now. He needs to get minutes under his belt, and at the moment at Leeds, he is not getting that when they've had injuries and stuff. He's just not fancied by Jesse Marsch as a player at all. Next up then is Leicester, and this is either going to be Soyuncu or Vestergaard, both barely getting any minutes, both dropped, both out of favour. Centre-backs, though, I'd probably sell Vestergaard out of the two because Soyuncu, he can be good. We've seen him get in the Premier League team of the season, and he also helped them finish 5th twice in a row, so I'd sell Vestergaard for Leicester. He just hasn't worked out for him since he moved there. So, Liverpool then, I'll go for Naby Keita or Oxlade-Chamberlain, and I think both of them, they're a bit surplus. They're not used in the midfield. Keita has had his injury problems, so I'd probably go for him just because Oxlade-Chamberlain is a bit more versatile. He can play on the left mid, which is what Liverpool have had needed at the moment. Now they've got Gakpo, maybe not so much. But Keita, I always hoped he would work out with Liverpool, but he just hasn't quite shown it good enough. Whether the injuries was a key part of that, he just hasn't shown it, and we should try and recoup some of that 50 million transfer fee. Manchester City then, I've gone for some people might disagree with this because he's made quite a few appearances this season, but Nathan Ake, I think they sell him, try and get the 40 odd million they paid back, and get in a left back who is gonna play more, because at the moment they're starting Ake, and I just don't agree. I don't think he's good enough. When I see City start Ake, for me he's the weak link, so sell him and just get a better left back. Next up then is Manchester United and Phil Jones. Just United, please just get rid of him already. You've been trying to get him out the door for ages, but he just won't leave, so please just get rid of him. Next up is Newcastle, and I've gone for two of their right backs, Minkilo or Kraft. I'll probably go Minkilo, so I think he's little less looked favourably by Howe, where they both made similar appearances and minutes on the pitch. And I think with Trippier there, they don't need two backup right backs. Like, come on, is this the England squad? You don't need that many right backs. So, Nottingham Forest then signed way too many players in the summer, and I'm going to go for probably the biggest name that they brought in, Jesse Lingard, and this is because he simply doesn't suit the squad. He's just not performing like they expected him to when they brought him in, so just bin him off and stop paying his extortionate wages. Next up, Southampton, and I've taken this from a Southampton fan who said even though he plays a lot, he's really poor and they could definitely start someone better. Mohamed El-Yunusi, just not good enough. No goals this season in like 16 appearances, just not good enough. Really costing Southampton this season. Next up then is Spurs, and it's either Jed Spence or Emerson Royale. One, they don't need that many right backs, and two, I'll probably go for Jed Spence because he's the third choice right back at the moment and needs to get some minutes as a young player. Next up then, West Ham, it's either Ogbonna or Craig Dawson, pretty much the exact same seasons, played by both of them, ageing centre-backs, although I'd probably go for Ogbonna, who is a cult hero, but Craig Dawson himself is becoming a bit of a cult hero for West Ham, and he's a bit younger, so just get what you can for Ogbonna before he retires, really. Next up then, and finally, is Wolves, and considering they lack goals, this might come as a shock, but sell Raul Jimenez. I can't see anywhere else where they can afford to get rid of a player, but clearly all the strikers they have aren't working out for Wolves, so if they sell Raul Jimenez, they can try and raise funds for a striker that might actually score them some goals, which would be the plan with that, because Jimenez, he's just not the same player as since he got that injury, which is a shame to see. So I thought he was brilliant before he got that injury, a real shame that he did, but I think it's time that Wolves do have to get rid of him and try and get in someone who can score them goals better. Anyway, that is my thoughts on who each Premier League club should get rid of. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and also tell me in the comments if there's any you disagree with and who you think from your club you should get rid of. See you next time.